This is the Final Whistle podcast from the Wrexham AFC media team.
The final score from the racecourse: Wrexham 2, Leyton Orient 2. Frustration for Wrexham, as twice they took the lead through Chris Holroyd and twice they were pegged back. A game which started off with Dean Keates making a very clear statement of intent. He's been hearing fans all season saying he should play Kelly in the middle in a creative role. Well, he did that for the first time, starting Kelly in there. Also, for the first time, he started with Rutherford and McCrath both on the pitch as the two wide men, a really attacking configuration. And, well, maybe we've learned from this game that doesn't quite suit us. First time we've let in 2 goals at home this season. We've squandered the lead twice, and we certainly struggled to keep hold of the ball. And yet it all started so well. After 44 seconds, Wrexham were ahead, and if you wondered whether Keates had decided this was the right game to gamble because Orient's defence is horrible, only Solihull Moors, bottom of the table, of letting more goals than them. They're really low on morale, and whether Keates thought this is the opportunity. Well, when Wrexham had a goal after 44 seconds, you wondered if the floodgates would open. That goal started off when Kelly dinked it to the edge of Masanka, held it up well, worked it out wide. Rutherford put in a cross, and Holroyd was there as the ball was deflected off Rutherford's cross in the air to the far post to head it into an empty net. Cue a massive inquest amongst the Orient defenders, and then cue a passage of play when Wrexham looked like they were going to get the second goal, which would have really demoralised Orient and surely put the game beyond them already. It started off with Rutherford picking the ball up on the left-hand side, cutting onto his right and swinging in a swirling cross to the far post. Wrexham was shouting for a penalty as Masanka went down under pressure from Ellis, but the ball evaded them and then threatened to curl inside the far post for a fluke goal from a cross. Not the first time I'll be talking about those today, unfortunately, or last time, should I say. Charlie Granger lunged full stretch to his left and managed to push it around the post. Wrexham, in all honesty, were not dominating possession. Orient had the extra man in the middle of the pitch, and they were working the ball around very well and keeping the ball, but they weren't threatening at this stage, and Wrexham continued to be the side of more threat. Kelly with a free kick, Pearson climbing and jumping it, heading it onto a defender, the ball just scooping over the bar, looping onto the roof of the net. And when the corner came in, Rutherford swinging a good one into the near post, an excellent run to the near post by Jennings, whose flick header across the goal beat the keeper, but Ellis at the far post managed to head it off the line. Orient didn't threaten till halfway through the half, although they were desperately unlucky not to get a goal the first time they really threatened the Wrexham goal. A corner swung in on the stretch. Ellis managed to volley it on target. Kelly did really well to head it off the line, but his header bulleted straight out to Mooney 6 yards out. He met it with his head, and luckily for Wrexham, his powerful header went straight at Dunn, who held on to it. So Wrexham was straight up the other end and threatening themselves. Rutherford cutting inside, feeding the ball to Holroyd, who turned on the edge of the D, but under good pressure from Dayton, hit a shot which went just over the bar as he tried to aim for the top right corner. Within a minute, Wrexham were punished for that, although in peculiar circumstances. Dayton picking the ball up and driving forward through the middle, a sliding tackle from behind by Kelly on him. The referee judged it to be a foul, but decided to play advantage. Dayton spread over to the left-hand side to Macaulay Bonn, and what happened next? Well, I mean, surely wasn't intentional, as he got it onto his right foot, and I surely ripped a cross in, but it swirled over Dunn, caught by the wind, and went straight into the far top corner. The keeper helpless, and Orient were levelled. The swirling wind would have a big impact on the quality of the game, would make it difficult for both teams to work the ball around. It affected Wrexham maybe a little bit more than Orient. Wrexham responded with Kelly swinging in a far post corner. Pearson climbs well just outside the 6-yard box, but headed it downwards just wide of the post. Frustration. Pearson, clearly by his body language, thought he'd scored. And then straight up the other end, Orient had Brophy down the left-hand side, cutting inside McCrath, pulling the ball back into the D, just behind Boko, who managed to dig out a shot, but put it just over the bar. Wrexham ended the half with the final effort on goal. Jennings doing well to cut inside from the left, squaring it on, and Hurst from 25 yards on his left foot, driving in a powerful shot, but Granger getting low down to his left to save. The second half for a good chunk of it, not much happened, in all honesty. The wind was blustery, not many chances were created. Orients continued to move the ball around quite well without really threatening. Wrexham was struggling to get much of a foothold, although when there were chances, they did come to them. The ball played forwards to Holroyd, who clearly fouled his man. Referee didn't give it. He was erratic in his decision-making. I couldn't help thinking he was guilty, because earlier in the build-up, Masanka seemed to be fouled, and the ref didn't give it, and he was evening things up. But having done that, not allowed Holroyd to continue, he then spread it out to McCrath in the edge of the area, coming in narrow, and he did well to ride an initial challenge, but then leaned back and lashed his shot well over the bar. Wrexham then trying to have an opportunity from a corner. Again, Pearson slinging it in. Again, Kelly slinging it in, and Pearson the target. His header from 6 yards appeared to be deflected well wide. Pearson was furious when then a goal kick was given. Before Orient come forward halfway through the second half, a real opportunity. Their first real threat of the second half, and desperately close to taking the lead. Bond breaking well down the left-hand side, had some good Wrexham pressure, pulling it back to Dayton from 25 yards out. He cut it into his right foot, curled it over, done a terrific strike. It dipped, hit the bar, and bounced back out. Mooney headed it against the bar again. Mooney offside when he attacked it, and it looked like Orient's bad luck was being compounded 3 minutes later when Wrexham took the lead. An excellent breakaway. Rutherford picking the ball up on the right flank, feeding it into Masanka, who did really well to lay a perfect little ball back to Rutherford. Rutherford drove it back into the goalmouth. Holroyd, as I said in commentary, with a chance he couldn't miss, but he did his best. A horrible first touch in front of goal, but the keeper penned back on his line, had no chance to react, and therefore Holroyd still got to his heavy touch and was able to lash it into the roof of the net over the helpless keeper. And then there was a period in which Wrexham really looked like they were in control, looked like they were going to close it out. Orient's making substitutions, but couldn't really do much in order to make much of an impact. And Wrexham seemed to be holding them at arm's length. But in the last 10 minutes, they just started to create. Caprice on the right-hand side, driving a horrible near-post corner. Mark Carrington, who was on as a stand-in left-back after James Jennings pulled a muscle, chasing back into his own half, stretched towards his own goal at full stretch, got a foot to it, deflected it towards goal. Dunn did really well to stretch at his near-post and get a hand to it. He could only push it into the goal mouth, but typically Pearson was there to hack the danger away. But the reprieve was short-lived. With 5 minutes left, Orient got that equaliser. A corner on the right hand side, Bocco swung it in to the edge of the 6-yard box, and the centre back Mark Ellis attacked it. A tremendous bullet header into the roof of the net. Dunn lunged for it but just couldn't get his hands up in time, and Orient had the equaliser. Wrexham tried to pile it on late on. Alex Reid came on, and Wrexham attempted to get as much as possible into the Orient box. They had a couple of moments where they shouted for penalties, both incidents involving the keeper Charlie Granger. Firstly Hurst standing it into the box, Holroyd's jumping with the keeper, they collided, the ball dropped loose. Wrexham thought they were going to knock it into the empty net. The referee blew for a foul on Granger, another one you want to see again. Suspected that Granger had missed it before the two men collided. Granger needed treatment, and then as the game went into added time, as it went over the added 5 minutes, another controversial moment, a long ball into the box. Manny Smith helped it on well, Reid couldn't quite reach it, attacked again by Granger, who got to it first. It seemed McCrath was trying to get a shot off, he went down demanding a penalty. Granger had a long period to play. At one point the stretcher was called for, but Granger was able to continue, and soon afterwards the referee brought an end to what I guess, James, we've got to describe as a frustrating afternoon's work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned in commentary that you were looking at these games filed away, Orient and now Chester, as sort of potential games. They're all but winnable, and 9 points would have seen us cruising out of this league, and really putting a statement down. And so far it's 1 point from possible 6, and just disappointment. But you can't argue that Leyton Orient deserved what they got. They came here, yes, they looked vulnerable at the back, but for the first time this season, so did we. We weren't great at the back. I think Pearson had a decent game, but Manny Smith was quite quiet in terms, and at times was under pressure a little bit. I thought he could have dealt with the ball better, which resulted in them hitting the bar with the long shot. But yeah, it's disappointment. But Leyton Orient played decent football at times. But our Achilles heel is, it's like a chef. A chef makes a recipe and you get the ingredients. Now I think Wrexham got the ingredients, perhaps missing that one. I think Kelly in midfield cause a lot more problems than. So I do like that. And Akil Wright, again, a good performance, but it's missing something. And it's missing that Wedgbury or Carrington influence just to sit. But then you sacrifice your wide players, and yeah, it's what's missing. Is it the salt and pepper? Is it the seasoning? There's something. I'm trying to make. I don't know why we're going down the food. I think I'm hungry, but yeah, there's something missing.
You sounded like Gordon Ramsay on cocaine at the moment. I may have misinterpreted the title of that programme.
I mean, Masanka put a great shift in. He worked really hard for the team. He was vital in link up. His passing today was better. His first touch was better. But does he cause a goal threat? No, he doesn't. Do we have a striker that causes a goal threat, that you realistically can say he can get the ball? You get the ball to his feet, and if he's got two defenders on him or one defender, he can turn his man and get a shot away. I don't think we have. Chris Holroyd is a good link player, works hard for the team, and is scoring the goals. Is scoring. Was it 4 goals now he's got?
Yeah.
But he's a linker player. He's not your out-and-out striker. If you get the right partner with him, I think we're, is that the missing piece of the puzzle? I don't know. It's very. There's no bad points about the squad, but then there's no massively good points either. There's something not quite there. Something's missing, and I can't. Is it the striker? Is it that creative midfield? If we get a creative midfielder in, who do you sacrifice? Because the fans have been wanting that. Dean Keates gave it to him, and we lost control of the game. And we weren't the same side that snuffs out opposition. And if we'd have snuffed out that opposition today, arguably would we have scored the goals? You don't know. That's a different question. But would we have conceded those goals? And our much, celebrated defence looked weaker today with not having the shield in front of it.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And within in-game, I thought that the bench responded well to that when they switched McCrath and Rutherford, because in the first 35 minutes, Brophy, the left wing back, was having all sorts of fun getting forwards. Because McCrath was unable to deal with him defensively. They switched Rutherford and McCrath. Rutherford put in a terrific shift, but even then, he's not going to be able to cover constantly. And Brophy did get forwards well a couple of times late on, one of which was that run into the middle, where if he had a right foot, he might well have scored himself, but he couldn't get the shot off because it was on his right foot, but he won the corner, which they scored from. So even then, even though we've made the right change to alter things, I totally agree. Whenever I see things like this, I keep thinking, Tim Vickery at some point on the World Football Phone-In said this, and it's stuck in my head about the old Brazilian saying about getting the balance of defence and attack right, that when you pull the blanket over your head, your feet get cold. And I quite like that as a way of looking at it, that we today we gambled and we changed the setup, thinking maybe Orient are weak and maybe we can get at them, and this is the opposition to try the attacking formation, and if it works, great. And then we've got something that works, and we've got the momentum behind us and 3 points and a confidence boosting performance. But actually what it did was, I didn't think we were massively more creative, but what we were was much more exposed at the back. I
don't think we created any more than we would have done in a normal game. Playing whether it's a Carrington Wedgbury or at least a Keel Wright and Wedgbury is a good solid partnership. I think Dean Keates needed to shake it up after Tuesday's performance, and he did so. So as I alluded to at the beginning of the commentary, I do think he's stubborn and he sticks with it. But when he gets to the end of his tether and sort of says, right, you've had your opportunities, and he gives a good opportunity to those players to go out there and perform, he is ruthless and he'll cut it. And you've got to give him credit to that. I still think he's stubborn to stick to this 4-4-2. I don't think it works for us. McCrest brought in as I assume as one of the the star sort of players that you think you're going to get, and he's not lived up to it. He's shown glimpses of it coming on as a substitute, but every time he started, I've been disappointed. But then who'd you drop? Rutherford works so hard for the team, but yet is he the player you sacrifice? And you have your luxury player as McCrath, and you push him up front with Holroyd, McCrath, and they sandwich up front with a target man, whether be it Reed or Masanka, and that becomes sort of like a floating 4-5-1, 4-3-3 when in attack. I don't know. There's an option. Rutherford could also play that role, but isn't as explosive. I don't know where the combination is that unlocks it, because I think Akil Wright for me is the first midfielder on the team sheet. I think Wedgbury's the second. I don't think you can take Kelly out of that team, because Kelly, as he proved today, in the middle, and he's done so on the left-hand side. It took him a couple of games to get into his stride as a Wrexham player, but certainly in the last 10 games, maybe a few more, he's been the only attacking outlet, the one that can get up. He's comfortable on the ball. He proved it in the last few minutes, and the crowd were trying to get him to launch it forward at times, but he's comfortable to turn back on it, turn on himself, wait for that pass, and does so. And then do you drop Rutherford, because you're just losing so much defensive cover, so much work rate, and what he does, it's very. It must be a nightmare for a manager who has to actually do it as a living. It's easy to sit up here or in the stands, and we're all football managers, and we can all go home and put Championship Manager on and pick our 11 in our desired formation. Keates has gambled today. He's shaking it up, so he stood there and to be counted, and he's put a team out. I don't think the team. I think someone asked in one of the Ask Wrexham comments that are we too predictable, and are we, a separate question, are we doing enough on the training field? I think we're doing more than enough on the training field. I think these are very well organised, very well drilled, know what they're doing, passionate squad. Again, going back to this season, there's something not quite, and we're persevering. It's a bit like Gary Mills would play round peg in the square hole. We're almost doing that, but we're sticking out with purpose, and you can see the organisation. Whereas under Mills, there was just like, I'll put him here, and if it works for a little bit, we'll stick with it. So that there's logic behind it, but it's not quite working, and it's so. Change the direction or change the shape to match that, and I get having a football philosophy. I get what he's doing. I get that you want to bring that in a cultural club, and it will take a while. Wrexham fans are not fickle, but they're starved of success, and when I've got 1 point in 6 games, and you're still third, and you're still 3 points off the top, you just think this league is that that 98-point season. And we didn't go up, and then this season everyone's beating everyone, and it's just crying out for someone. Yeah. And this might not be the best team that's ever played in the national league. It isn't. It's not the best squad that's probably played for Wrexham, but there's enough in it to really put some results together and really push on. And that's what's frustrating. I think that's what's frustrating the fans is, Wrexham fans appreciate good football. I don't think we play good football. We miss out the midfield a lot, and we go automatically wide, and then. So I get what the pattern of play they're doing. We just don't effectively use that pattern of play when we do it. So what's the point? So something is not quite ticking for me.
Is a fab stat I've just worked out, because I said before that off air, it feels like the table is stuck. It's broken somehow, because we keep dropping points, but we still keep being third and 30 points up the top. And I don't see how that works. I've just double checked then. In our last 10 league matches, we've dropped 15 points. We've got 15 points out of 30. How can you still be 3 points off the top of that formula? It's just utterly bizarre. We're still in third place. It's not as if other teams are at least stepping between us and Dover and Macclesfield. It's just so weird, isn't it? There's something odd going on. You got Trump as president, and you've got this, and it's just not normal, is it? There's something weird. I just think you look at. I like your analogy of the missing ingredient, because I kind of think that's what it is. Keates has built his squad carefully, and there's one ingredient he failed to buy. So to continue your analogy, he went to Sainsbury's, but one item was out of stock. And that item out of stock was the target man who can score goals as well. Yeah. And that's not something you find very easily, but Keates had identified, as far as I can see, and I don't put names to this in case I'm treading over a line I'm not supposed to, but he definitely identified 2 players who definitely fit that bill, who from their records would score goals at this level and win a lot of headers at this level and hold the ball well up at this level, and he failed to get either of them. And I think he's right in not jumping in and thinking, well, I've got the budget to buy that player, I'll have to just buy somebody. I think he's right to not do that, and because we already got other options, Masanka, Reed, Bolden, and all right, we don't need to dive in and get another striker of similar quality because we've got those three. I think it's right to hang on and get that right man, but I just think, yeah, that is what's missing, and the worry for me, well, they're not worry necessarily because we're third, but you look at how we've played there where we've gambled at the midfield, and all we've done is we've lost what grip we tend to have in midfield. Luckily Holroyd stepped up, and we've had a couple of moments where Rutherford's delivered for him, and were it not for those two, then we would have lost this. I think personally, I'm okay with the 4-4-2 until we get that man in, and I can't help feeling that we revert back to what we were doing personally. Chester coming up, get tight and solid, that solid side, not giving anything away against Chester. We've got a week and a half now, which is a very unusual window for a team that, as you say, prepared themselves carefully on the training ground, and meticulously on the training ground. A rare opportunity to grasp. It might be that Keates, Darlington and Davis think, okay, if we're going to make a root and branch change and go to 4-3-3 now with a week and a half to do it, this is when we do it. But my gut feeling is dig in till we get that right man, because those basics are keeping us up there, and if we can retain that massive defensive solidity which we surrendered today and start to make things stick in the other side penalty area, we're going to win this league. Because it's a silly league. Yeah, it's full of nonsense teams at the top end.
It is a silly league, but yeah, the ingredient is obvious. It's the striker. We need that nasty man up front that creates something just by annoying defenders, being in the right place, winning the headers, and then the wide men have got a target to go. But I still don't see. We play out to the width. That's our game. Play to the wingers, play to the fullback. How many crosses do we put in the game?
Yeah,
we don't.
That's true.
We don't play. That's what we're supposed to be playing. We don't do it. So what's the point? It's do we stick? Do we twist? I for me, Chester coming up, it's the big game that you don't want to lose. You know, and on paper, it's not played on paper. We know, but you should play that. And I would advocate sticking to the formation we've got. But after that, I'd look to change, because going back, let's go back to the food analogy. We started it, we'll finish it.
That's always my policy on food.
Yeah, if you're going to make a meal that involves a ingredient and you can't get that ingredient, then you have to adapt. You make that meal something else, or you add it. We're not doing that with the football.
But tofu's not chicken, James.
It isn't.
And if you want to make a chicken curry, and you can't get the chicken. Oh God, I'm sorry, vegetarians listening. Don't just slap the tofu and expect it to be a chicken curry.
Buy beef. Buy beef and have a beef curry. What I'm saying is,
this is deep.
I don't know why the food analogy. It just sort of, it puts a light-hearted spin on what's quite at times frustrating.
Not light-hearted. I'm going to go and buy beef on the way home today.
But you know, we don't have the set ingredient we want, but we do have other options. We've got 4 of the strikers, as you mentioned, or 3 of the strikers. Holroyd obviously is in there on merit and performing. The other 3 have got something else, but they don't fit into the mould we're looking for this system. So adapt the system to what we have got. You know, we're 18 games into the season now. The excuses of 10 games to gel and all that have gone. Fortunately, the table keeps being very kind to us, and we keep getting these results. You know, if this had been last season and we picking up the points where we are where we were, this would be a completely different outlook of how the fans were reacting to it. Yeah. The fans are frustrated now, and we're third in the league, because they're seeing the performances, they're seeing what we're not getting, and I think they see it's there for the taking. You know, all the big names are failing. It's just, yeah. We've got to be optimistic, and we've got to go, but it gets frustrating, and I can see Dean Keates has got a lot of passion, and his team that he's brought into the building have got a lot of character.
I
had to get it in, you know, obviously. But the character, we asked for the response. You mentioned it before before kickoff. You want the response today. Did we get it? Not really. Did we gamble and go for an attack? And did he sort of succumb to what was wished on? Maybe, maybe not. You know, Wedgbury suspension didn't help him. I suspect Wedgbury would have started today alongside Akil-Wright, and Kelly would have gone out if he'd got his ideal team, and McCrath would have been on the bench. Does that get a different result today? Don't know. It's hard. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. yeah, we scored 2 goals. It's nice to see Holroyd scoring. It's nice to see us scoring from open play. But, you know, we didn't... As much as this team's well drilled, when we go 1-0 up after 45 seconds, that should have been game over.
Yeah.
We'd be solidified. We win midfield. It doesn't matter who you play in the centre midfield. We don't play through the centre midfield. So it could be... You know, we could get Lee Fowler back from retirement and play the balls to him, and he could sit there and just ping the balls as he does without doing any training, because we don't use the midfield. So it's irrelevant who's in that part for us. But all we do is we're winning ball winners. They get the ball, they put it out wide, and then we don't deliver across. We play McCreth, we don't play the ball to his feet, down the line, we launch it up top.
If you said about if we had a target man, we don't get enough crosses in. But if we have a target man, does the ball stick up front, so we bring the wide men up high up the pitch, so we do get more crosses in, is one of my theories.
Yeah, possibly, agree, yeah.
Rutherford's, by the way, I took a Donald Trump style tone then. By the way, I was going to say, this is bad. Rutherford's got 5 assists now. He got 6 in all of last season, so to be fair to him, he's getting something, and that surprises me slightly. I know he's playing so much better this year than last year, but it does surprise me. He doesn't strike me as the type of winger to be getting delivery in. McCrath is the guy who gets delivery in, and I know that the assists are not the best measure of a player's creativity, because an assist also depends on the striker finishing it as well. But I'd also say McCrath's got 2 assists this season, weirdly both with his left foot. For a right-footed winger who gets around the outside and sticks stuff in, he's actually only got stuff in when he's already at a crowded box and has cut back with his left foot and stud things in there. I'm not sure I can quite explain that. I
mean, I think me and you were in the Rutherford camp last year. We mentioned it a few times that we thought there was a player in there.
Yeah.
Much against general common opinion at times, but I think there was times when you could see there was a player, and he's flourished with better players around him. We've mentioned that, and I will not do him any discredit for his work rate, his ethics off the pitch and on the pitch. He's a good solid pro who offers. He's a great squad player. He's deserved his opportunity to start, and that's what you want a manager to show faith in a player that shows faith in you and performs for you. But I mean, the assists does surprise me, but I feel like he's going to be the scapegoat that if we bring in a creative midfielder or a striker or change anything, he will be the one that's sacrificing. As much as life isn't fair, I can't see him dropping Kelly, I can't see him dropping Wright, and I can't see him dropping Wedgbury.
But McCrath?
Yeah, but Wedgbury's coming from McCrath there on that.
Okay. 5 assists a season for Rutherford. Next best are Kelly and McCrath of 2 each.
Yeah.
And like I said, assists are not the best statistic to judge creativity, because you could be putting in all sorts of wonderful passes and your centre forward's missing the ball. But it does tell you something, doesn't it? And
it does tell you something. But all right, let's take the midfield and the attacking units as a whole, and take the defence out. We take the goals that the defence has scored this year, which is what Manny Smith's got 2, 3. Pearson's got 1. Jennings has got 1.
Yeah.
How many goals have we actually scored this season? We're second lowest goal scorers in the league, and that's the most worrying stat. The midfield unit and the attacking unit aren't getting on the end of the goals we should do.
I think we've got 16, because I haven't updated my little spreadsheet for today's game, and I haven't got the own goals, and I think we had 1 own goal in our favour, and those goals, those defenders you mentioned, they've got 4 goals between them. Wedgbury's got 1, of course, but he's a holding midfielder, so the creative players, Kelly with 1, Holroyd's got 4 now, Musanka's got 2, and Reed's got 3, but they seem to have dried up for him, don't they? So it's a concern. Right, and now I'll put my second query about 4-3-3.
Okay.
And I'm not disagreeing about 4-3-3. I can see in this squad.
I'm not saying
the logic of it. And a lot of people have said to me as well. And it's an interesting point, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just sketched out roughly what I assume a 4-3-3 would look like. So you got a keeper, where it's Dunn or Dibble. You got Roberts, Pearson, Smith, Jennings back 4. Maybe Hurst is for Roberts. Wedgbury, Wright, Kelly as your midfield 3. And then it gets interesting, because I was saying in commentary, maybe when it was 1-1, I said, although it's counterintuitive, we're not getting enough grip of the ball in midfield, and I was suggesting maybe we take off a striker and put on an extra midfielder to get the grip in midfield and allow us to get wingers higher up the pitch, which seems counterintuitive, and the crowd wouldn't like it when a striker comes off and a midfielder comes on, but I just thought it'd be a way to get a grip on it and try and push on. And you rightly countered by saying, but it'd be harsh to get Masanka off, and if Holroyd is, you know, probably not suited to being that lone striker. And the problem with the 4-3-3 to me is the same one. If you put Holroyd and Rutherford out wide, for example, who's the central striker? A striker, we've got 3 options, all of whom are not scoring and probably aren't that much of a dangerous threat playing on their own up front. So we put Holroyd to the middle, does that suit him? You got McCrath and Rutherford either side out. I see the logic when people talk about 4-3-3, but I'm still not. I still think there's the same danger of being disjointed that we've got at the moment.
Yeah, quite possibly. It's like you said, it's not one on paper, is it? But when you put it down on paper, yeah, it becomes a discussion point because it's visible and you can it's out there. For me, I think Bowden would do okay in a 4-3-3. Yes,
yeah,
his goals aren't going to score, but he's intelligent enough to hold the ball up. He does win the odd header, and I think you'd have Holroyd and Rutherford playing off him with Kelly coming in to join, and he would be able to drop those balls for them to come in and have the shots. I don't think you necessarily in the 4-3-3 need that striker to be the out-and-out goal scorer just because he's the lone option. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, we're looking at the names Robertson and Hurst. You can go on the right back. Who's the better? There's arguably there. I think Jennings obviously picks himself at the moment because he is the only out-and-out left back that's in the squad. Manny and Pearson, you know, dead certs. Keeper, well, you know, Coddington, if he'd have been available perhaps and would have come at this level, would he have signed him? You know, but he's got 2 keepers now and he has to stay faithful to them. Dibble and Dunn is the same argument between Jalal and Dunn last year. Wedgbury, yes, is your midfield 3 picks itself. I think Kelly and Wedgbury is the perfect combination of those 3 players. The only other way you can go into 4-4-2 is you have to combine 2 of those players somewhere, whether it's Kelly into Wedgbury, that defensive playmaking midfielder, but is that player available at National League level? Probably not. So you have to amalgamate to get what you can. Rutherford, undroppable. I think 4-3-3 for me keeps the solidity. I've lost the word. I know what I mean. We're solid in a 4-3-3 because I think Rutherford and Holroyd have enough nous and we'll track back to cover when we're in defence. I think if you put Reed or Bowden up front in that one, you've got enough that'll run round. Masanka today proved he can run round and cause defence problem. As going forward, you really need McCrath and Holroyd perhaps going forward. So then you sacrifice Rutherford. Who'd be a football manager?
Yeah, I would. The money's amazing.
But yeah, there'll be people will be talking about it. What we can say is the performances aren't good enough. They're not what we're expecting.
Yeah. But we're third,
and so you take the positives with that.
Yeah.
But it feels like it's frustrating because you can see that there's a league out there you can see
that's very true.
How much we improved as a team since last year. So you have to look at it, but then you've got to also look at it. It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
That back 4 is under 2 years contract. There are players there shouting that they should be given an extension. Holroyd, one of them already. Wedgbury would be in my sort of thoughts. Kelly would be my thoughts. Wright, obviously not our player, but I'd extend his loan, and perhaps if his contract runs out at the end of this year, he'd be one to looking for. You can start seeing Rutherford is putting a good shout in to get a contract extension. You can see where the squad could build next year, but either Dean Keates, you're right. I don't advocate wasting people's money. We're a fan zone club. The money raised is from the fans, and that's an important part of our model. Build the budget was a fantastic initiative, and it's great that Keates hasn't splashed that cash and wasted it, because I agree the right player is out there, allegedly going after them, and he's not settling for second best. Now, certain managers in the past, we know we're talking about, in Gary Mill, would have splashed that cash and thrown a problem at it. His reaction to it is get another player, and eventually he'll stumble on someone that'll score a couple of goals, then that'll fail, get another player. That's his scattergun approach, but occasionally gets him success. I'm more comfortable with the way Keates is doing it, and he's building it, and we have to maybe think this is a long-term project, and we've got to remember that. But then you look at the league and you think it's there this year for the taking. Maybe next year, people like Fylde, who've got money behind them and backers, they're quite happy coasting in this league this year, just feeling it around, feeling where they are in the league, getting a bit of who do we need to sign, who's good enough, who's not good enough. Will they splash the cash next year? Possibly. Look at the teams potentially coming up after that. Salford and the money they've got. There's a lot of teams coming up, so is this the year? And I think that's why Wrexham fans get frustrated, because they can sense that the right result, the right squad could potentially get into League Two this season. Yeah,
good logic. Although I'd also argue that we're clearly heading in the right trajectory now, and therefore, let's not panic. Let's get the correct signings in. Is my logic. I'm desperate for the toilet, and it's cold up here. And Carl Hogan has just walked up, provocatively eating what looks from a distance like delicious food, rather than the tofu curry you were selling to me halfway through this podcast.
Carl Hogan has found the missing ingredient that we've been looking for.
He has. It's sort of brown gloop in a tray, and it looks good to me. So I'm thinking, end broadcast, urinate, find what that stuff is, and get some. That's my road to midnight, essentially.
That is the light at the end of the tunnel that has been today's game.
Absolutely. And just to mention, you did say in the commentary, man of the match was Chris Holroyd. Absolutely correct. Lucas scores 2 goals and decided don't create many chances. I think is worthy of getting a man of the match call, and he did a brave attempt to wound the goalkeeper near the end.
Yeah.
Good mentions to Akil Wright, who broke things up well and showed great energy in midfield.
Paul Rutherford worked hard.
Yeah.
And Pearson, I thought, had a solid game.
And used the ball well, I thought, from the back, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
He kept trying to drive things forwards. And I think that's a very efficient way to end this podcast and run headlong to the toilet. Too much information? I don't think so. Final score was Wrexham 2, Orient 2. We've been Mark Griffiths and James Harrison.
This is the Final Whistle podcast from the Wrexham AFC media team.